Hey y'all, welcome back to Blind Table Talk. This is your Sassy Seat segment. I am your host, Sassy Side, aka your blind butterfly. Tonight I have a great guest at the table with me. We are going to be giving you some real chit chat, some fun, and it is with the wonderful, fierce, beautiful Chelsea Nguyen. Hello, Chelsea.
Hi there, my beautiful blind butterfly.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. I definitely thank you so much for coming to the Sassy Seat and kind of sharing your story with us and your passion for our BBI community. And so let's start with that. I know you have so much going on, and I just want my listeners to hear about you, who you are, and what you do for the BBI community.
Sure, thank you. Well, I actually want to start out and saying thank you for inviting me to this show. I'm super excited to be here, and
Thank
it's an
you.
honor. I'm so proud of you too, because I remember when you and I first started talking about all the ideas that you had when you moved to
Yes,
Houston,
yes, yes,
and this
yes.
was on your list
On
to
my
have a
list, right?
podcast.
Yes, it sure was. So, yes,
Awesome.
thank you.
Yeah. So a little bit about me. I am I live in Houston, Texas, actually more like Sugar Land, but I'm originally from Vietnam. So
Mhm.
I am half Vietnamese and half Chinese, but an American citizen, and I've been here for quite a while. After the Vietnam War, we came over to America on what is it? Shrimp boats
Oh, wow.
yeah,
Yeah,
refugees after
yeah.
the war. So we were refugees and came as political refugees, and have made a home and a business out of being here. And my company that I have now is called CN Vision Image Consulting. And
Mhm.
what we do is basically teach non-visual grooming and hygiene techniques to individuals who are blind or visually impaired. And we also work with individuals who have other disabilities as well. So
Oh,
I help adapt techniques so that they can be more independent and self-confident to always look their and feel their best whenever they choose. So,
absolutely. And that's so
yeah,
important. It is so important.
thank you.
And we'll definitely dive deeper into the importance of that in a little bit. But I have to know, and we just, I want my listeners to know what brought you to start this business and particularly for BVIs and the disabled community period. Like what led you to this?
Well, thank you for asking that question. I started this business. I mean, I actually came into it by accident, and I guess you could call it a happy accident.
Right.
It was
Like a good accident.
right, good, happy, what a serendipitous. It was a God thing, I would have to
Hmm.
say.
Right.
And what happened was, before I ever came into this company, my first original business that I started in my early 20s was owning a salon and spa in Sugarland.
Mm. Okay.
So my mother was a hairdresser. I have aunts that are hairdressers. So I come from a family of hairdressers, cosmetologists. And so we, when I grew up, guess what? I never wanted to be a hairdresser.
Right. Right.
You never want to do the things that your
Yeah.
family forces you to do,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
So I used to grow up answering the phone, sweeping hair, shampooing clients, and assisting in the family business. And my mom used to have a salon, but then when I grew up, it was like, oh, um, got married and had kids, and then when my ex-husband now, he lost his job, we were like, oh, let's just get a salon. So I
Right.
did. I owned that for 15 years, learned all the ins and outs of the business, and became a makeup artist, hairstylist, and a platform artist. And if for those of you who don't know what that is, I would go on stage at hair shows and events and actually teach hair techniques and coloring techniques for global hair companies.
Mm. Hmm.
So, are you familiar with a company called Chi? and
Yes.
matrix.
Yes,
All right.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. The silky hair people. That's what I call them.
Oh, I love. Well, that's great that you know that. Then that their marketing worked because they're known for using silk in
Yeah,
their products, which
right.
is very great for your hair. It makes it stronger, shinier, wonderful. But I've been an educator for Matrix as well as Chi, so I'm a bilingual, actually trilingual educator for them. So I speak English, Vietnamese, and French, and I've just always loved teaching.
Right.
Always love teaching. And during my work as a makeup artist, hairstylist, and beautician and a salon owner, I later on, I would say around 2011, I was kind of going through a really hard time in my life with my divorce and everything. And I wanted to do some volunteer work. I started wanting to volunteer because, I think when you volunteer, you kind of get your mind off of your own troubles and your own life and your own things.
Right.
And so I decided, I was talking to some of my clients and they said, you have a really good soothing voice whenever you answer the phone at the salon or whenever I'm doing treatments, like for some of my cancer patients who came in for facials, or things like that. They said, it was really helpful that I had a good soothing voice. So they said, one of my clients in particular, she said that when she met her husband, he was volunteering reading for the blind on a radio show called Taping for the Blind. And I was like, wow, I've never heard of that. But when I went online to go find out about Taping for the Blind, there was no such thing. They had changed their name because nobody used tapes anymore.
Right. Yeah,
Back in
exactly.
2010.
Yeah,
Uh,
exactly.
so it changed to Sight into Sound Radio.
Oh,
And
yes.
yeah, so you've
Okay.
heard of Sight into Sound, right?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, for those of you who don't know, Sight into Sound is a nonprofit organization that reads for the blind, and we have a whole radio show, lots of different things. We read magazines, newspapers, books for
Hmm.
individuals. If you can't find those things on Bard or Talking Books, we actually read it for you. So,
Wow.
it's really, really
Yeah.
cool. It's a great free service to anyone out there who's blind or visually impaired. So, check them out.
Yes.
Um,
Awesome.
so I auditioned, and
Hmm.
the crazy thing was you actually have to audition, and they have to see how you read, does your voice sound, and all that kind of stuff. And I passed the audition and became a sight and sound reader for 8 years.
Wow.
And I
That's good
know,
that they do that though, because I mean, I'm glad they audition because sometimes, I mean, I know that it's a volunteer thing, but we just don't want to hear everybody and not everybody is meant to have that radio voice. So I'm
right?
glad and you definitely do have it, but not everybody does. So I'm glad that they
Aw.
actually audition for it. So
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, they vet people to make sure
yeah,
that,
right.
they have a good tonality, they
Yeah,
can pause, they're not overly dramatic, and
right.
the
Yeah.
voice is pleasant because some people, believe it or not, some people who have theater experience, they
Hmm.
come into something like this and they overdo it.
They're dramatic. Yeah, yeah,
You know,
exactly. Yeah.
when you're reading the
Hey, it's like
newspaper,
calm
you don't
down, calm down.
exactly. You would be great at it, by the
No,
way. You have a great
thank
voice.
you. Thank you.
Yeah, so I did that for 8 years. I was actually on Sight and Sound Radio, read the Houston Chronicle live for gosh, 8 years, every
Hmm.
single Sunday morning from 8 a.m. till 10 a.m., 8 to 9.
Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and so it was such a wonderful experience, but and I met wonderful people. And at the
Hmm.
beginning of that, when I first started reading for the Sight and Sound, I for White Cane Safety Day, Sight and Sound was there, and we were invited to City Hall, and we were there to speak to the keynote speaker. And for those of you who may or may not know, the winner of MasterChef 2012, her name was Christine Ha.
Ah, yeah, we interviewed her. She was on our
Oh,
show a couple of weeks
wow.
ago.
No
Yes,
way.
yes, she
So,
sure
yeah.
was.
So,
Yes.
Christine, I really have to thank Christine
Hmm.
because when we interviewed her, and, I was there with the radio station, and because I owned a salon and spa, I said to her, because you're doing so many public appearances, I'd love to provide some hairstyling, makeup
Mhm.
services to you whenever you're doing your public appearances. And she
Yeah.
turned around and she looked at me and she said, Chelsea, I lost my vision in my early 20s and or mid 20s or whatnot, and I would really like to learn or relearn how to do my makeup as a blind woman.
Mm, mhm.
And I looked at it and I was like, really? I didn't even know that there was anybody that, first of all, I didn't know there was a need.
Right.
And
Yeah.
secondly, I didn't even know that people weren't teaching that already.
Mm,
And
yeah.
so that single question changed the rest of my life.
The crazy thing is about, it going blind, 'cause, I went blind as an older adult, and so
Mm.
I, you know, I didn't get taught how to put my makeup on, I just did it, right?
Okay.
And so not ev so there but there are some people who that doesn't come natural to them,
Right,
right? And
right,
they do
right.
have to be taught, and they do. And I've always, but then I only wear eyeliner and mascara too, and lipstick. So I know that
Mhm.
there's plenty of us that wear foundation. If I were to wear foundation, I would have to
Mhm.
be taught how to do that as a blind woman because I mean, that's just
Mm.
not something that I even know how to do and never
Right,
knew how to do. So
right.
some things people can get, but I think it's so important for our independence to be
Mhm.
able to do I don't wanna have to call Chelsea to come put my makeup on every time I wanna wear makeup, you
Exactly.
know?
Or, and what happens with most individuals that I've met that are blind or visually impaired, either one, they don't wear it at all
Yeah.
because they're
Mhm.
afraid that
Because
they're
they
gonna
don't
look
yeah,
like a
they can't do
clown.
it. Yeah, which
I mean,
which there are some that have and do, 'cause you have to be careful with that because if you don't
mhm.
have the proper skill, because that's why people like you are out there though to show people how to do that, but there are some people that wanna take it on their own and they do look like a clown.
Yeah, and that was one of the most common things that I heard when I was, speaking to the women that were in my first class.
Mhm.
And, it was so heartbreaking because,
Yeah, yeah,
after they learned how to do the skill and we came over and interviewed them, the Houston Chronicle came out and did a story. They had a camera crew and everything. I mean, it was insane. But the women, some of them were crying because
right.
they were like, I haven't seen myself in a mirror in like 7 years.
Yeah,
And it just broke my heart, you know?
yeah,
And
yeah,
then it just made me feel, and then they went from crying to smiling and feeling good about themselves and feeling
yeah,
so happy and so confident.
right,
And, just saying like, wow, like I'm beautiful. And I'm like, of
right,
course you are. But they just were so afraid of
yeah,
looking at themselves in the mirror and
yeah,
with makeup on and worried that they would doing it wrong or wouldn't look nice and would look
yeah,
like a clown, or they didn't want to be laughed at or ridiculed. And nobody does, right?
right,
Nobody
yeah.
wants to be to have people um,
Looking yeah,
looking at you in a weird way, even though if you can't see them, but you don't want to hear the snickering or the,
right, yeah.
you know.
It's the confident because, okay, even for me, I'm total, I don't look in mirrors, right?
Mhm, mhm.
But to know and feel that I know how to so if you were to teach me how to do this stuff and I'm confident in being able to do it, whether I'm looking in the mirror or not, I can feel it.
Right,
And it's a
right,
lot about that too, because if I feel whereas if I was not taught this and I don't know how to do this, I'm not gonna be confident with putting my makeup on and having the public look at me because I'm not sure if I know how to do it correctly. So
right.
you make that difference when you're teaching people how to
Mhm.
do this, and you're teaching, blind women, even totally blind or partially, whatever it may be, having that confidence in, hey, I can put my makeup on by myself and I know how to do it, so I know it looks good.
Yes, and I'll even say this, and it's not, and we're here. We are talking about makeup making us look good and feel more confident, and when we put it on,
Hmm.
you hear people compliment you, even though you can't see it, right?
Right.
But
Hmm.
another big part of my classes is that you don't have to wear makeup to be
Right.
more beautiful. We
That's
are
true.
all already beautiful just as we are, and I feel that
Absolutely.
healthy skin is beautiful skin. So
right.
for my younger children, like my little itty bitty elementary school blind
Mhm,
children,
mhm,
and my boys and girls, and teenagers and stuff, we
mhm.
I always want to teach about healthy, clean, beautiful skin, and how
Yeah,
to take care of your skin, and it goes with all age groups, all genders, and
yeah,
that if you choose not to wear makeup, that's totally fine.
right, yeah,
But here
exactly,
I am to teach the skill when you choose
right,
that you want it. It's all
yeah,
about choices, and it's always all about independence. So,
absolutely. That
yeah,
and it's all and it's more than makeup too with you in your company. It's more, I mean, it's hygiene, grooming, it's everything,
right,
right?
right. It's
It's
all about how to make a
dressing.
great first
Yeah,
impression.
yes, absolutely.
And the great thing is, and for those of you who don't know, you and I have done so many amazing classes together, and
Yeah,
I've had the honor of
yeah.
having you come teach with me, and you're
Mhm.
such a wonderful role model because you always look on point.
Yes, thank
um,
you.
your
Yeah, that's
hair,
so
your
important.
makeup, your clothing, the whole package, so that
Yeah,
the thing that I really want people to understand for the sighted community is that I want to break down those misconceptions and those barriers where
right.
people misconceive and say, oh, well, you don't look blind. Oh,
What
you
does
don't
blind
look,
look like? I keep
yeah,
asking that. What
right?
does blind look like? But you
You
know what
know,
they think it looks like though? And I mean, disheveled, not matching,
yes, correct.
looking, so those are
Um,
those stereotypes that are out
Or
there. Like,
you don't look disabled, right?
yeah,
Have you heard that
right.
term
Oh
before
yeah.
too?
Oh yeah.
It's
Oh yeah.
people have this okay, and the thing that I think that people think blind looks like is everybody looks like Stevie Wonder, where
Right.
you
Yeah.
have dark
Mm-hmm.
glass sunglasses on,
Mm-hmm.
holding a cane, and
Mm-hmm. Rocking
you
back
may
and forth.
rocking back and stemming,
Yeah.
right? Rocking back and
Mm-hmm.
forth in your
Mm-hmm.
chair or whatever, or unkept or whatever, and
Yeah.
you just don't look put together. And
Yeah.
it's such a misconception. Um,
Yeah.
and it really has to do with learning those skills and those techniques of how to be independent, how to learn these things in new, adaptive, different, and
Yeah.
accessible ways, right?
Well, I think the problem too is that it's easy for us as, blind, man, woman, whoever, to get into a almost like a depression mode where we just are in a phase of our
Mhm.
blindness that,
Yeah.
it's dark for us, right? It's dark. And so a lot of
Mhm.
times we stop caring about what we look like. I don't care. I'm blind. I don't care what so I'm gonna throw on wrinkly clothes, dirty clothes. I don't care.
Right.
I'm not gonna do this. And but what people fail to realize is, yes, you are blind, but everybody else is not. And so
Right.
they're still watching you, right? But what I found is that when we get into those depressions, which by the way, I mean, I to this day
Mhm.
still fall into,
Oh.
find
Oh
myself
yeah.
going into those depression modes, right? But when we feel good about ourselves, we're not going to feel good about ourselves if we're sitting there looking a hot mess.
Yes.
Right. And I don't care if
Absolutely.
you don't go anywhere. Dress yourself. Put your clothes on, get dressed, do your hair. If you want
Mhm.
to put makeup on, if you're not, then, do a facial cleanse or do whatever. But the thing is that how we look, and you and I have taught this in our classes, like, right, how we look it's going to reflect how we feel.
Mhm.
And that's, so if we look good, we feel good.
Right.
And it makes
Absolutely.
a difference.
Absolutely. And
Mhm.
and and vice versa. When we
Yeah, and if
feel
you look,
good, we
yeah,
look good.
yeah, exactly.
So sometimes, and first of all, before we move on past, because I want to tag on to this, but I want to just say thank
Mhm.
you for being so brave and open by being vulnerable with us and your
Oh,
listeners by
thank you.
saying that,
Yes,
you still go through bouts of depression, because I think that a lot of people are ashamed to share that, but I don't think
yeah,
that we should be,
we
because
should
I
not.
think we all go through that in
Right.
our daily
Yeah.
as humans. Um,
Yes,
we
absolutely.
go through moments of happiness and sadness and all
Hmm.
that. But to be open about it and just have it as a discussion, I think it kind of like casts light
Yeah.
to it so
Yeah.
that it's not such a taboo thing to talk
Right, and
about.
it's not, and because
And you
and I
don't have to
used to
be
think,
ashamed,
it's,
you
and
know?
I used to
Yeah.
feel like I was alone. I was the only one that does that, but I'm not. And the
No.
reason why we should be, we should be comfortable discussing it is because we don't know who we can be helping by sharing that with them. With
Right.
our listeners, sharing that somebody that's listening could be experiencing the same feelings, but
Yeah.
it's a natural thing. And I think the key for me is sinking into depression. That's going to happen, right? But the key for me is bringing myself out and
Right.
knowing when and how, and and that is the key. And locking up in my house, in my room, and never going around people and just not getting out of the bed, that's not going to help anything.
Right.
But,
Definitely not.
and
Yeah.
then help too. And May, by the way, May is Mental Health Awareness Month. So,
Oh, is
that's
it?
yes, it is.
Wow, I
So,
didn't realize that, how it just kind of
so
segued into that.
yeah, it sure is. So, just
Oh,
for our
wow.
listeners, if there's, you're
Yeah.
not alone, and there's help out there. And I also want to, and we've been talking about this in our show too, is it is okay to seek counseling and therapy. There's nothing wrong with that either.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
So.
I go through that at times in my life
Mhm.
where, I have moments where I'm not the happiest. And
Right. Yeah.
when I go through my dark times, and I have 20/20 vision.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
I won't
Yeah.
wash my hair sometimes.
Yeah.
I may
Right.
not,
Yeah.
I might
Mhm.
wear those same clothes for days and
Yeah.
don't want to
Just
get out
don't
of bed, don't
care.
want to take a
Yeah.
shower,
Yeah. You don't care.
don't want to put on my makeup or do my hair.
Right.
But the
Mhm.
moment that I go ahead and take a shower, change my clothes, and put on
Yeah.
something that I feel, the colors that make me feel proud, look good, and feel good, then all of a sudden your whole demeanor
Just
changes.
flips. It flips, right? Yeah.
Totally
It flips.
flips. And
Yeah.
so, I think a lot of my trainings and my classes are more about, it's not so much about the makeup and the hair.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
about, putting our best face forward and taking those actions to take care of ourselves. Because when we take care of ourselves, it's a way of loving ourselves.
Right.
And when
Absolutely.
you love yourself and you care for yourself, the world sees it and
Yeah.
they appreciate too that you put in the effort, because everybody likes to be around people who love themselves. It's not pleasant to be around
Yeah.
people who don't show self-care.
And on the flip side of that too, as blind people,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
We are All eyes are already on us,
Oh, yeah.
unfortunately.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
You
true.
know, so even if you're just walking, I mean, I did this for years. Like, I would not bring my cane out because I knew as soon as I brought that cane out, no matter where I was, people are going to be looking at me, right?
Mhm,
So
mhm.
imagine if I'm with the cane and I'm walking around a hot mess looking crazy. Of course, it's going to be the pity thing, right? Oh,
Right.
that poor
Oh,
blind
that poor
girl, that
thing.
poor
Poor
blind
thing.
girl. She's
Yeah.
blind. Look at her. And no, that's not what we want. But when I'm walking with my cane now and I walk with my head up and I walk with confidence, you can go ahead and look at me, because now
Absolutely.
it's not going to be, oh, that poor little blind girl, right? It's more
Right.
so like, wow, she's, look
Wow.
at her.
Yeah.
She's walking with confidence. And I think that makes a difference. And we should always try to strive to be like that. Anyways, I'm just saying, anytime, we as blind people leave the house, we should
Mhm.
still make sure that we are in attire that is, decent, because
Right.
we want to make sure that we look our best, because of
Mhm.
the point that people are already expecting us to look or be less than as a blind person. It's life. It's a stereotypes. It's the way it
Yes,
is.
total stereotype. But,
So,
they all say that stereotypes do come from somewhere, right?
because they probably came across a blind person that looked a hot mess.
Right. And so that's why I'm on a mission, like we're on a mission, right? To
Yes,
spread the word
right.
out there, to let people know that these type of trainings and these type of things exist. And if you so choose to be more independent, in order to take your own appearance and your how you appear to the world in your own hands, then you have that ability to do so.
Yeah.
So I think that regardless of if you're blind, visually impaired, or sighted, as
Mhm.
a whole society, because we are not separate little islands living on our own as a hermit in some cave, right?
Yeah.
Now,
Right.
if we were like that, it wouldn't matter what you looked like or smelled like or
Yeah.
dressed like. But
No.
the harsh and the true reality is, the great reality, I should say, is that we do live in a society with other people.
Yeah.
And 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 no man's an island, but when you live in a society, people do judge you by the way that you
Absolutely.
look
Yeah.
and the way that you carry yourself. Doesn't matter how old you are or where you live in the world, this is universal. Let's
Yeah.
agree on that. So
Yeah.
people who say to themselves, "Oh, I don't care about how I look or how I
Hmm.
dress. I don't care if I did my hair or if I did my makeup or not, or I don't care if my breath smells bad or I didn't take a shower." Well, the harsh reality is it's your prerogative. You can
Yeah.
do whatever you want, and that's fine. But the thing is that it will keep doors and opportunities closed for you
Absolutely.
because people don't in a society, okay, and you know what? I'm going to take this back to the caveman days. Let's just
Yeah.
do this. This is kind of getting a little bit weird and scientific, but I truly believe that back in the days when we were, cavemen and cave women, if there was a caveman or woman who smelled bad or had
Yeah.
poor dental hygiene or whatever, it was because there was something wrong with their body. They were
Yeah.
unhealthy and sick in some way. And in those days, it was all about surviving in a pack, right? And when
Yeah.
you survived in a pack, you mated with the most healthiest
Hmm.
individuals. And
Yeah.
that was the point. You live together in a society with individuals that were healthy. And if there was, even now, when you see animals or out in the wild, if there's a sick animal that smelled bad or was unhealthy, that,
It's
you
by
know, it was
himself,
left
right?
by itself.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
was left by itself because they didn't want everybody else to get infected or diseased or dirty or, whatever, right? It's just
Yeah.
very primitive, I would
Yeah.
say. It's so
It
primitive.
is. And speaking of, because we, as blind people, even dating, right? And
Yeah.
people are looking
Oh
for
God, you're
people
bringing
to
up such a good
date.
subject. Oh my God.
Yeah. So
Oh
people
God.
are looking up
Yeah.
people to date and do all that stuff and
Yes.
wondering why you can't find a date or keep a date. And I know but it's hard for us as blind people. I do get that. It is,
Mhm.
but it's the dating pool for everybody is crazy nowadays. But
Right.
um, you know, the one complaining about it is the one that has the bad breath, the body odor, all
Right.
that stuff, dresses are hot, that doesn't take care of themselves. And even if you are dating other blind people, they still they still know. I mean, we still can tell when
Of
somebody is not up
course.
to par. I'm sorry. It's human nature. And so
Right.
it's important, especially when you are looking to date. I think that's something to, not that you're, trying to make yourself, look better for somebody else, but look
Mhm.
better for you because it will make a difference in how you come across to others. That's the thing.
100%. 100%. Because it all starts with you.
Yeah.
Right? And the
Yeah.
way that you care for yourself or don't care for yourself or love or don't love
Right.
yourself,
Yeah.
it's going to basically dictate how you're going to allow people to treat you.
Yep. We talked about, I've always talked about that. That is so true. And
Yeah.
that self-esteem,
Yeah, and if you don't have the
confidence.
self-esteem
Yeah.
to get out of the get take a shower every day
Yeah.
and brush your hair and even take care of your basic grooming,
Yeah.
it shows disrespect for
Yeah.
yourself. And
Yeah.
how can others respect you if you don't respect yourself,
Yeah,
right?
yes, that's so true, so true. And it's so funny because I know, the whole thing comes back to what people, judge, right? And
Right.
we always say, oh no, well, people shouldn't judge me, or we say stuff like, I don't care what people think about me, but at the end of the day, you really should,
You
right?
should.
And it doesn't have to be, I'm not saying like, okay, I don't like ice cream. I don't care if people have a problem with me not liking ice cream, right? But
Right.
depending on our roles in, you know, the community,
Hmm.
I, I feel like when people look at you and, for example, I have Blind Professionals Network and I'm
Mm-hmm.
the director of that, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if I'm out here looking a hot mess and acting even a hot mess, that per I'm going to be judged and say, "Wow, that's the director of Blind Professionals Network and she
Right.
looks and acts like that." So
Right.
in that case, yes, I do care what people think about me because that's
Mm-hmm.
important. And so the last thing I want people to do is say, "Oh, yeah, here she comes. She stinks all the time," or she has bad breath, all of that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You should
Mm-hmm.
care about that. And I do care about that. And even how I dress, because I think that's something that needs to be maybe expressed or for those that may not be aware, even though you should, how you dress, it should be appropriate for what you're doing. You should not
Absolutely.
go to a professional function with, tight dress, your boobs hanging out and half
Exactly.
your ass cheek hanging out, you know, you know, but you're standing there confidently talking about, I know I look good. No, this is not the place for that. And
Yeah.
I think that needs to be, we need to be aware of that type of thing as well.
It's so, so true. And so a lot of these individuals, whether it doesn't matter if you're blind or not blind, I
Yeah,
mean, there's people in all walks of life that are
right.
gonna be like, well, it's my prerogative. I'm gonna wear what
Yeah.
I want to wear, and I don't care
Yeah.
what you think.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? Guess what? You're not gonna land that job.
Yeah.
You're not gonna
Right.
get that date. You're
Yeah.
not gonna be invited to that event or that
Or y-
church to
or
be a
you
part
might
of the choir or
you might
whatever it
get
may
that
be.
date, but for the wrong reason. You
There you
might get
go.
that date. Yeah,
There you
you
go.
might get that date, but that's all, but yeah, that's the point. And it's like, and for you to have the attitude of I don't care what people think, or I do what I want. And that's true, but just know judge judgment is out there, and
Oh
it's
yeah.
automatic. I don't even care if you don't speak on it. In my head,
Hmm.
even though and I can't even see, but if I hear something, even if I don't say it out loud, in my mind, oh, there's some judgment going on, you know?
Everybody is thinking it.
Yeah.
They're just not saying it. And
Yeah.
and they may think things of you and will never tell you.
Yeah.
And
Right.
that's the hard part of it is you may be wondering, well, how come this is so unfair? I don't get this
Yeah.
opportunity or that
Yeah.
opportunity. But then you have to like literally really think about how you portray yourself to the world
Yes.
and
Absolutely.
make a choice. What
Yeah.
how do you want to be perceived?
Yeah. There you go, right
What kind
there.
of impression do you want to make?
Yeah.
Right? Do you want to come off as being entitled? I'm
Yeah.
entitled to do
Mm-hmm.
whatever I want, and it's too bad if you can't handle it and
Yeah.
give a, I don't care whatever you think. Well, guess what? Those people who are thinking these things or could be your future employer. They could
Right.
be your future spouse,
Yeah.
boyfriend, girlfriend,
Yeah. All of
wife,
that.
husband. They could be, your future, doctor or whoever, or, a
All
coworker,
all of that.
all of those things.
And on,
But
I think of entrepreneurs too, like people
yes,
that have
yes,
businesses and they act, just you look at them and those are the ones that, like I don't care. But is this somebody that I want to go and trust my money with in your service or products when you can't even, be conscious enough to know how to act or not act or dress or not dress, or you know what I'm saying?
exactly.
That makes a difference.
Because in the end of the day, you represent
You.
yourself.
Yeah.
You represent your company, the way that you portray. When I go out in the public, I just came back from an event, and I'm wearing my company T-shirt,
Mm-hmm.
all black shirt with my logo on it, and black pants, and I have my hair tied up in a ponytail because I wanted to look professional, clean cut,
Yeah.
right? And I
Right.
was around lots of children and
Mm-hmm.
adults, and it was a fundraiser for students, children with disabilities. And
Right.
so, am I gonna? Do I know how to dress real nice to go to a club and go
Right.
dancing?
Yeah.
I do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do I have a short skirt? Sure, I do. But am
Yeah.
I gonna wear it at that event? No. Am I going? Do I? No. You and I know, Victoria. You and I can get
Yeah.
real loud and happy
Yeah.
and have fun
right.
at karaoke and
Yeah,
all that kind
yeah,
of stuff. But am I going to act like that when I go to these type of events? No,
right.
because why?
Yeah.
The city of Sugarland's mayor
Right.
there,
It's not
and
appropriate. There's a
you know,
place there's a place for everything,
for
a time and
everything.
place, and you have to know accordingly. You would think these are things that people should just know automatically, but
They
sometimes they just don't.
don't.
I know. I
They
know.
really, and I'm gonna have to say, a lot of people don't, and that's what really surprises me.
Yeah.
Um, I, I just don't think that a lot of us, we're all gifted in different things, right?
Yeah. Right.
Maybe that's, computers, maybe that's other skills and things,
Yeah.
but not everybody is intuitive about how they appear in the world,
Yeah.
what they're
Yeah.
wearing, and I think for you and I, we just kind of like naturally kind of pick it up because of
Yeah.
we're
Yeah.
more observant. We're also out in the business world a lot,
Yeah.
you
Right.
know. For me, my mom was a hairstylist and a beautician, and I've been in and around the beauty world so long that I just kind of pick up on these things. But
Right.
um, a lot of us with sight still don't
Yeah.
aren't
Yeah.
intuitive enough to observe what you should or shouldn't wear. And,
Yeah.
and then it makes it even, I think, even more difficult when you don't have vision because you can't see what is happening out there. You don't,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
don't, you don't, you don't have the vision or the sight to see others through example
Yeah. That's
to
true.
demonstrate it for you. So that's why when I teach, non-visual grooming and hygiene techniques or audio describe what types of clothes you should or shouldn't wear, and we're using audio description, now we're kind of evening the playing
Yeah.
field, and now everybody's able to, see in their mind's eye
Yeah.
what that looks like, you
And
know.
and I think sometimes it could be a matter too of maybe somebody is not aware because they've never been told.
Right.
So they think that what they're like, I make sure that I just kind of do a I don't know, it's not even a self check. It's just like, let's evaluate and see, what I'm doing, where I'm going, what I look like in
Mm-hmm.
the image I'm trying to, put out there. And
Mm-hmm.
I don't think people actually do that. If you don't care about your image, okay, that's fine. You don't care about your image, but you still should care about yourself, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so how people look at you, I think sometimes there's people that I don't know if it's a blind thing, maybe they don't tell us that we don't, that that's not a good look for you. I think that can happen a lot too, because I
Mhm.
mean,
People are
there's,
scared to hurt your
yeah, people,
feelings, and
yeah,
so they don't always
exactly.
tell you. That's why,
Mm-hmm.
I think we all need people that are going to be
Yeah,
brutally honest with us.
right. Yeah,
Somebody
that's
that you
true.
can truly trust, but
Yeah,
we don't all, not everybody is lucky enough
has
to be
that.
that kind of
Yeah,
person. That's
yeah,
where you're going to need somebody like me who's a
yeah,
professional,
yeah.
who, a reason why they call me into a lot of school districts to talk to the teenagers or even young adults and even, adult professionals.
Mm-hmm.
The hard truth is because you don't have to take it personally from me because I don't know you,
Right.
right?
Yeah,
But I'm only doing this and I'm only sharing it as a professional person who really
yeah,
wants you to look and present your best self,
yeah,
you
yeah.
know, and empower you with these skills. And so, but for those of you who are lucky to have family members and friends and stuff like that that you
Mm-hmm.
could trust, then I would definitely tap into that. Um,
Yes, please.
and I would say this, so as you were talking, it made me think of, the people who aren't aware. Now, I work with a large population where, of individuals who have like maybe learning disabilities
Right. Yes.
or
Yeah.
emotional disabilities and things
Yes.
like that. And honestly, they aren't aware,
Right. Yeah.
and they don't realize these
Yeah.
type of things and these nuances and social etiquette and stuff.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
there is that we do need to be more understanding and compassionate about, and it's not any fault of their own,
Yeah.
but there is that's why professionals like me who come in for these type of trainings through whether it's Texas Workforce or the educational service centers or things like that, Chris Cole. is to kind of find out, okay, is there an intellectual and an emotional disability that we need to know
Yeah.
about? And if there is, then how do we convey these skills and the importance of them in a way that each person can understand in their own way?
Right.
And how do
Yeah.
we adapt those skills in a way that, whether it's a limited mobility in their arms and hands or,
Yeah.
things like that, how can we adapt it and mold it so that they can be able to do this themselves and understand you know, um, on a very way that they can understand that it's important, you know? So,
Yeah. And obviously this has to be a topic or something that is important enough for the rehab services
oh
to
yeah.
pay for these uh, their customers to have these type of
Hmm.
trainings, right? So this is
Oh
not
yeah,
just something
huge.
that's out there where, it's not just something we're saying, hey, you have to do this, but so important that you you don't even have to pay for it, right? They
Right,
and I say you as in blind or visually impaired, they can
right.
get it paid for through their state rehab services because
Absolutely.
it's important.
And you brought up a really, really good point as to wow, it's so important that our government tax dollars are being
Mhm.
put into these vocational rehabilitative services. And
Yeah,
why?
yeah,
Whereas, what are the factors that is leading to unemployment? Not having the right hard skills, which is computers,
yeah,
technology, and all the things that BPN
yeah,
gives resources and information about. But there's also the soft skills. The soft
yeah,
skills, are what I provide. Those are
yeah,
going to be the grooming, the hygiene, the makeup, the hair. How do you talk? How do you represent yourself? How do you act in public? What
yeah,
how do you communicate when there's difficult situations and deal with difficult individuals at work? How do you communicate and advocate for yourself and tell people about what your needs are on the job? So,
yeah,
a lot of times, right, people can get hired because they have the great technical skills, but they're fired or they're never hired because they don't
because
have the
of
right soft
soft
skills.
skills. Yeah. I
Okay.
mean, those are so important, those soft
Yep.
skills with everything. I mean, even, oh my gosh, we did something, we were talking about something a couple of weeks ago about even soft skills related to like restaurant etiquette, how we act in the
Dining
restaurants.
etiquette. Oh
Yes,
my goodness. I teach
yes.
that too.
Yes,
Yeah.
I said we need to do a workshop or something on that by itself because
Oh, yes.
sometimes we blind folks get in these restaurants and we just act a complete hot mess. It's just so
Uh,
crazy. But
I know.
and those are all
Man.
part of that. But I think too, a lot of it is I want to, I mean, I'm not putting blame on anybody, but there's
Mhm.
a lot of our blind community has been raised in a sheltered environment
Mhm.
as
Yes.
well. And so, they got family members who've done everything
Yes.
for them, dress them even, and all of that stuff.
Cut their food for them.
Everything. Yes, we talked about that. That was so crazy. And so,
Mhm.
but all of those things, but that is just it's not it does not help us as blind people at all because at some point, this person could have to be independent for, that those people are not going to be around at all times. And when they're gone and that person
Yeah,
is now in the world and by themselves, now they're totally lost.
exactly. You know, that brings, kind of touches on, you know, family and
Mm-hmm.
friends, and caregivers.
Yeah.
They mean well.
Right.
Let's just agree, right? They
Yeah.
really do
Yeah.
mean well. And
Yeah.
then they also want life can be hard on all of us. We all are time crunched and busy in
Yeah.
our certain ways. So sometimes it's just easier
Easier.
to
Yeah.
just
That's it.
do
Yeah.
it
Mm-hmm.
for our blind or
Mm-hmm.
visually impaired family member or friend instead of teaching them the skill, you
Right.
know, and
Yeah.
even the blind person themselves may not even want to learn because they feel kind of stuck in their ways and they kind of
Yeah. Well,
you know
well, why
feel
learn? They could just do it for
right,
me,
it's just easier if you do it for me, right?
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
In the end of the day, if we're truly looking at the
Yeah.
long term goals and life, like you said,
Yeah.
it really is important now, wherever they are in their stage of life, whether that's, a young baby or
Yeah.
teenager or someone who just became blind due to
Yeah.
glaucoma or
Or an accident or anything. I mean,
accident
anything.
or
Yeah.
whatever disease or illness
Yeah.
was, or and becoming blind or visually impaired in their 80s or 90s, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It
They get
is,
stuck in that.
they do, and it's
But
hard.
it
It's
is hard, but
hard.
you know what? One of the things, and as a blind person, I can say this is that we have to want that independence for ourselves
Right.
because if we don't want it, then it's just it's always going to be relying on other people. But
Absolutely.
I've always been an independent person, right? So even going blind, I was like, went through like, oh my gosh, I now I have to depend on people, right? I don't want to be depending on people. I want to be independent. But
Hmm.
there's some people that, may not even know that they can have that independence when they go blind.
Right.
And that's the
Right.
other thing, the awareness of, they go blind or they lose their sight and they think that they have to now depend on other people for the rest of their lives. And that's so not true.
Right. That
Mm.
isn't. I mean, if you truly, what they have you ever heard the saying, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, that's
And
a
I
mhm.
think when we individuals, and me included, because I've got hangups and
Yeah,
bad habits and things that I
yeah,
have been working on changing. But the moment that we decide that we
mhm,
need to change, that's when we're going to be ready to go through the
yeah,
difficult learning curve, to go through the
yeah,
suck of learning something new and not being good
yeah,
at it for a long time, falling, getting back up, falling and getting back up.
yeah,
You know,
that's true.
being ready is a decision that we
It
all have to make.
absolutely is. And
And
the
it's not going
thing
to be
is,
easy, but it's going to be worth it.
it is, but here's the thing
Yeah.
too, and I didn't learn this until, I lived it, right? But
Hmm.
one of the things that helped me get ready is to see other blind people doing it, right?
Right.
Because there's a lot of people that maybe live in a small town where there's not other blind people around.
Hmm.
There's a lot of people that don't see other blind people and neither do their loved ones. So
Right.
they all blind and sighted loved ones think that they're this person does have to depend on somebody for the rest of their lives, or they think they are going to
Mhm.
have to be dependent because they don't know,
Right.
and that's one of the problems. And so when I first went blind, I thought I would have to depend on somebody for the rest of my life because I didn't know. And
Hmm.
even when people told me I could do this, I can do that, I still, even though I, started doing my own independent things on a smaller scale, I really didn't believe that I can be 100% independent until I seen other blind people being 100% independent.
Yeah. I,
And
I love
that's
that.
what yeah, and that makes a difference
It
because,
does.
and you have to see it because a sighted person could tell me all day long, "Oh, well, you could do this and you could do that and, all this and everything is out there." But I still did not see it for myself.
Hmm.
I'm still around a bunch of sighted people that are still helping me, taking care of me, doing this
Hmm.
and not letting me do the things that I know I can do. I mean, I had to force my family members to let me do the things that I knew I can do, right? But
Wow.
they too never seen other blind people
Right.
that could do these things. And we mentioned Stevie Wonder and all that stuff that you cannot compare blind people to Stevie Wonder or Ray Charles because number one, those are rich people, right?
Hmm.
Most of us do not have Stevie Wonder, Ray Charles money. So that's a
Or their
whole
talent.
yeah, so it's a
They're
whole
rich because of their talent.
yeah, so it's a whole different
Yeah.
level. They're
Hmm.
not on the same, those are not my peers.
Hmm. Hmm.
They're not my peers. And so when I actually seen that people, that are on my level of life and not millionaires,
Hmm.
um, and doing it, and then that just gave me that little confidence, and that's why I hope that when people listen to, things like this and listen to
Hmm.
other, podcasts that are out there and other resources that are out there and they see these things and like, I hope that it gives them some kind of hope to say, well, maybe, okay, maybe I, maybe
Maybe
this
I
is it.
can
Yeah,
do it.
maybe I
Yeah.
can,
Mm.
because it's so hard as a blind person to realize, and especially again, those isolated ones that are in those small towns, that there
Hmm.
is no other blind people where their family members think that that's the way to do it is to take care of them in that way and what is it, hold their hands through everything,
Right.
and that's not the way that it should be.
No, it really, by being someone's crutch,
Yeah, yeah,
for the rest of their life, they'll never learn to walk on their own or do for
yeah,
their own.
yeah,
And if you truly, truly love your blind or visually impaired or
yeah,
disabled child, family member, friend, whoever, then if you truly love them and you care for their future, then
yeah,
you're gonna have to give them tough love.
yeah,
You're gonna
yeah,
have to be able to accept that they are gonna fall and hurt
yeah,
themselves sometimes or whatever.
bump into
But
something or,
bump
you
into
know,
a hole sometimes, maybe not
yeah,
get frustrated, get angry, get upset.
yeah,
But if you give them space and patience and compassion and just continuous reinforcing of support
yeah,
and lots and lots of patience and just learn through repetition and all
yeah,
of that, we all will learn
yeah,
eventually, but it takes a lot of kindness and compassion so that we can develop and grow and learn and
yeah,
eventually become fully independent. So for anybody out there who's listening, who's a caregiver, a parent, a helicopter parent, or
yeah,
an overbearing caregiver or whatnot, if you truly love them, let them. Let them make the
yes,
mistakes. Let them fall down sometimes. And then in time, they will be able to live in the future without you,
yeah, that's
you
so
know?
true.
And I
Life
will
is
say
life. Life is
it,
life. We have to live
yeah.
life. We have to live it. I mean, it's what it is, and we cannot go through life without going through those little bumps and things that happen and those falls that might happen, that wall they may run into. I mean, it
Hmm.
happens, it happens
Yeah,
to all of us, and so we
absolutely.
have to be allowed to make our own mistakes, and
Right.
and
That's how we
that's the thing.
learn.
Yeah,
We
it
learn
is.
from making our mistakes, right? And
Yeah, yeah,
you could tell somebody, "Oh, don't do that. Don't do
yeah,
that. Oh, don't touch that thing. Don't you can't
yeah,
like people say, "Oh, they won't let their own kid curl their hair or shave
yeah,
for themselves because they're afraid they might burn themselves or afraid they might cut themselves." Well, and then they do it for them all their life. So they never,
yeah.
well, guess what? I teach them how to use a beeping curling iron that's nice and safe and won't burn yourself, that
Well,
anybody can
but
use.
it
I teach
doesn't
them how
that
to like
doesn't matter
shave.
though either though, because here's the thing. You might, but I was sighted for 30 years. You know how many times I burned myself with a curling iron? I
Yeah,
mean,
but with a beeping curling iron, there's accessible tools, right?
there
Like,
is, but
yeah,
sometimes you might get burned. It's okay. It's not the end of
yeah,
the
even if you
world.
do,
Yeah,
exactly.
it's
It's
not
part
the
of
end of
learning.
the world.
It's part of
Yes.
learning. But there's thermal gloves, that things like that I teach. So there's always
Yeah,
ways.
I use that too. I have the
Right.
glove and stuff. Yeah, there is, and I just do that. I mean, because I the glove is just convenient. I can curl my hair without it, but being
Hmm.
able to touch and hold my hair in place if I need to, that's just it's a safer thing. There's so many. That's the thing about um our the tools and stuff that are out there for us though as blind people is like there's so
Hmm.
many things out there that can what for if we need it or not. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? If we need
yeah,
it. If you don't need it,
absolutely.
don't use it.
You
But
don't
if
want
you,
it, you don't need it,
you know,
it's fine.
I didn't
But
think I needed a glove for that, and I didn't. But and maybe I don't need it, but I definitely want it, and I use it. It's so much easier. You know,
right.
you
Just
never know
makes life
what's out there.
easier.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
and and the thing is that nowadays with technology, YouTube and all these other
yeah,
things, if you want to learn something, the knowledge is out there. You just got to
That's
seek
true.
it. If
That's
you
what I
truly
say.
want to learn something, seek it.
YouTube University. That's what I call
Right? Which this
that.
show itself is going to be on YouTube from what
Right.
I
Yes, it is.
understand.
YouTube University. Well, what about,
Yeah.
okay, so, we have the grooming and all of this stuff that is going on, right? And
Right.
things that are we know that are important and things, but you talked about soft skills and stuff, but
Hmm.
does that include, you know, like you said, talking and learning how to be what's appropriate. Okay, you know what? I'm just going to say it. There are some that I call um, socially awkward,
Yes.
right?
Really awkward
And
people. Yes, I know.
yes, yes, which again,
I am
they're
sometimes
cited to,
myself.
yeah, I was going to
And
say it's
I
not,
was one.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. They're
I
sighted
confess.
and blind, but
Right.
social that there is just some things that need to be taught as to how to,
Hmm.
be around other people.
Yep.
What to do and not to do around
Hmm.
other people, because we talk about people saying or judging, right? I mean, it's not necessarily a judging, but you get around some people that just randomly say inappropriate things or do
Right.
inappropriate stuff. And again, we feel for them on a different level because there's that empathy, like that poor blind person, once again.
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
they don't have to be that way, right?
Right.
And again, I get that there is, I'm not talking about those with cognitive issues and that have other
Right. Or
disabilities.
emotional or
Yeah,
intellectual
there's
disabilities.
other
We're
disabilities.
talking about those who don't have that
I'm
and
talking
they still
about
act like that.
you and I type of people, right? And
Right.
just normal blind people that are just blind.
And
There's
don't have any other disabilities.
right, and then they're out
Yeah.
there being very socially awkward. Now, again, a lot of that too can come from the fact that they've been in that small town isolated and in that room
Yeah.
for so many years, but those skills need to be taught too.
Oh, I totally agree. I mean, those skills, you said it earlier at the beginning of the show so many times. It's about how you look and how
Yeah.
you act.
Act.
Right?
Yes.
I mean, that is like two sides of the scale right there.
Yeah. Right.
One can't be without the other. You can
Yeah.
look great, and if you have a terrible attitude, people still aren't going to want to be around
Yeah.
you. You can
Yeah.
have a great attitude, but you smell bad and look bad, people
Yeah.
don't want to. So you've got to have that balance, right?
Yeah.
And so those things are so, so important. And I think, in a lot of my trainings, again, it goes back to soft skills. How do you
Yeah.
communicate? How do
Yeah.
you wear your facial expressions and your body language? 80% of what we say is not even spoken.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
our body language. And
We
when
don't think about that though
I know
because
we
we can't
don't.
see because and
I
so and that's the thing.
know.
And so
I
but
know.
here's the thing. I just because I cannot see, number one, my body is still speaking a language
It
to who
totally is. And I
it
think
doesn't matter.
that's why I think that like soft skills and body language classes and
Mhm.
courses on that.
Right.
I think you're just giving me another big idea for like more classes and trainings that I need to do online. But
Yeah.
is about body language and describing to
Yeah.
a blind audience, like audio describing to a blind audience, what type of body language command respect and show confidence,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
those that don't, right?
Right.
And the
Yeah.
different types of body language that you may or may not be giving off that portrays all kinds of things about you,
Yeah.
nervousness,
Yeah.
or stemming and shaking and your head back and forth, or rocking in a chair back and forth, or tapping your feet constantly, and or using a lot of overly using hand gestures,
Right. Yeah.
things like that. And even eye contact, whether you can see or not see the person in front of you, you still need to turn your face to the speaker's
Yeah.
voice.
Why are you looking in the,
Why are
to
you
the
turning your
left when
head
the person is
backwards?
yeah. Yeah.
This is, I swear to God, this is a true, true thing that happened. I have gone to conferences and trainings where I would be sitting in the audience, and the blind person sitting in front of me was turning backwards from the speaker. So
Right.
everybody else is facing forward towards
Forward.
the
Yeah.
sound of their voice because they're standing at the podium in front of the auditorium or whatnot. And the blind person who was totally paying attention, because I could hear he was paying attention and listening, because he was shaking his head, nodding, agreeing, asking questions, but his whole body
Yeah. Was
was
looking the
facing
facing.
the back of the room.
Right.
So
Yeah.
the person who's the speaker is going to think, what? This person isn't even listening to me.
This, right. Exactly.
But
Yeah.
he was. But the thing is that because he was blind,
Yeah.
because nobody ever told him, you need to turn your body towards
Toward the
the
voice.
voice,
Yeah.
your head, your eyes, your body, because that shows that you're paying attention.
Yeah.
And
Which, that brings me, and I told you
yeah,
earlier about me with the videos, right?
yeah. Hmm.
Um, and I'm sure I've said this before, my listeners probably know this, but I have such a phobia of
Uh-huh.
doing videos. And so,
Oh,
which is
okay.
something that I'm gonna have to start doing
Yeah,
coming
yeah.
up. And I think that is one of the reasons why the phobia is there as a blind person when I can talk, like, I mean, we're doing it now. I can talk all
Hmm.
day long on an
Right,
audio, right?
right,
No,
right.
no problem, with ease, with confidence. But when
Hmm.
you put that camera on me,
Mm,
my palms start sweating and I'm just like, oh my gosh, am I looking at the camera? What am I looking at? And even, yes, you can set that camera up in front of me, but I am a hand talker and a mover. So I talk with my hands, which makes me move, and I move a lot when I talk.
hmm,
And
hmm.
so in doing that, so am I going to be looking, to the left and the camera's on the right? And I
Right.
think those are those fears that I have with that. And
Mhm.
just, or, even though it's a camera, what if something, I can't look in the mirror to make sure my face is
That,
right and all that
yeah,
stuff, right? So,
right.
so now I'm on camera and I may or may not have, hell, a booger in my nose, anything,
Right.
I
Or the
just
camera could be shooting straight up your
up
nose
my
while
nostril,
the whole time,
which I
which,
have
by the
seen that,
way,
by the way.
happened during COVID all the
Yes,
time.
yeah, I've seen that a lot
Yeah.
too. And so those are those fears that I have, and I am been working on trying to overcome those fears too. But those
Mm.
are the type of, like, those are those blind, barriers that we have. But am I making that barrier for myself? I'm sure that I am, because
No.
some people, don't have a problem. They're like, oh, well, who cares? I'm blind, so they'll just have no, but that just because I'm blind, I don't want it to be okay that the camera is looking at my nostrils.
Yeah, no. You know what? The fear that you're bringing up is a totally valid fear.
Hmm.
And because you had vision before, so
Right,
you have a point of reference as to how you look on camera or in a mirror,
right,
not,
right.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And it really does make a difference. So
Right.
that fear is totally, totally valid. Like, how do I look on camera? So I'll give you
Yeah.
this. During COVID, everybody was on camera because that's the only way
Yes.
that we could meet. And we were
Yeah.
all doing Zoom calls and
Exactly.
trainings and classes and all of this kind of stuff, right? And so during that time, I did teach a lot of Zoom classes, and especially when I was teaching my students who were blind or visually impaired on Zoom, we would go through that. We would
Hmm.
go through, okay, how do you position your camera, blah, 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 blah. I want to work with you one on one, just you and me,
Yeah.
girl, because I
Yes.
want to be able to say that I was the image consultant who worked with
Yes.
a lovely, beautiful, uh,
Yes.
butterfly
Yeah.
host,
Yes. Yes.
blind
Yes.
butterfly host that
Yeah.
is on. And I want to see you, honestly, I really want to see you overcome that fear on camera and really
Yeah.
shine. Because I really feel like in public, as in life,
Yeah.
and the reason why I love you as one of my teachers and trainers that
Yeah.
worked with me in the past is because you are such a great role model.
Yeah. Oh, thank
You
you.
when you shine your light, you give others the permission to shine their light
Yeah.
and be an
Awesome.
example to our students and be an
Yes.
example to other blind women out there who are entrepreneurs, who are podcasters and
Yeah.
public speakers.
Thank you.
So,
But
yes.
but that reminds me, do you remember when we did a virtual class, right? And you
Yep.
were like, and you were so, because you're such a picture person and video person, you're like, oh, you have to be, but remember, I would not do, remember I had you put my
You
picture up there?
constantly, yeah, you would
I
not
did
be on
not, I did.
camera. We are gonna tackle that monster for you
So
and
now you see what
feed
I was
that
saying. Now
dragon.
you're seeing where that came from. 'Cause
I
when
know.
you're like, just turn your camera. I was like, no, I don't want the camera on. And so you did a whole little picture in my background and all that stuff for me instead of having me on video. So
No
that
more
just
excuses. No
yes,
more excuses because we are going to take you to the next level. And you know what?
awesome.
This is going to benefit so many other individuals out there who are blind or visually impaired who need to know this kind of information as
Yes,
well. I really
I
think.
agree.
So,
Yes, thank you.
because well, you just by the way, for the listeners on there, just a little bit of a thing is, Victoria and I were talking off the camera and Zoom before, and it's like she was saying how she wants to do a video for her podcast in the future because
Yeah.
that's where things are trending. That's
No, I
where things are
wasn't saying I
going.
want to, Chelsea. I said I have to.
Have
I
you
have to
have
do a
to, yes.
video. So we have to turn our podcast is going to be now video as well. And
Absolutely.
so this is not a choice. And so,
No.
and I'm like, my palms are sweating as we're talking about it right now. You see? So,
They say that the mother, wait, is necessity is the mother of all invention, right?
right. Yeah,
And it's a
exactly.
necessity that you grow and
Yeah.
change and take your podcast to the next level. So we must do this. And
No,
I,
and it's funny because I told my marketing consultant, he says, well, I would like you to do that. I'm like, yeah, well, I don't want to do that. And then he was like, okay, well, I said, the only way that I can is if you tell me I have to do that. And so
yeah.
he was like, oh, yeah, well, you have to do that. I'm like, damn it. Like, damn it.
Hmm.
So like now that became a necessity and now I have to do it. So I'm looking forward to you helping me with that because it's going to be a tough one for me.
Yeah, well, you know what? You are going to be a trailblazer for all
Yes.
those other blind and visually impaired, public speakers and presenters who are scared to admit that they don't like being on camera and they don't want to either. So,
Yes. Thank
we'll
you.
work out the kinks and all that kind of stuff, and then
Yes.
you
So,
know,
oh my gosh, Chelsea, I wanted to thank you. And so thank you for sitting at the table with me.
absolutely, girl, we always have so
We've
much
covered,
fun.
I know we've covered so many things and stuff
Yeah.
like that. So let's just, make sure that our listeners
Hmm.
know where and how to find you and reach out to you for oh, wait a minute, but before we do that,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
let's talk about your other
Oh, yes.
venture that you have really quick. So
Okay.
on top of your image consulting,
Yes.
tell us what else you have brewing.
Oh my gosh. So, you know me, I've been in the blind community here in Houston a long time, pretty much since 2012. And I absolutely, aside from all this work that you and I've just talked about, teaching non-visual grooming hygiene techniques, a hobby of mine is being an audio describer and doing accessible events and audio describing the circus or taking
Mm.
my groups to the barbecue cook-off and
Oh, which we
making it
went to. I went there
right.
with you
You
last year. It was the
did.
year before COVID, remember? Matter of fact,
Right.
it shut it down, but sorry. But yes, go ahead.
Yes. See, so you remember how fun that was, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So I love make finding events that are everybody enjoys doing, lots of people enjoy, but may have not been accessible in the past to the blind or
Mm-hmm.
disabled community. I take those things and then I find, all the accessible routes, find, figure out accessible transportation, make it multi-sensory for the blind group so that we are touching and feeling and smelling and tasting,
Wow. Mm-hmm.
whatever that is, and have volunteers that audio just like I tend to lead the group as an audio describer, describing and being your set of eyes on the tour. And it's a
Mm.
fully guided tour and event. And so I took that with 5 years of doing that with the barbecue cook-off, which was a total
Mm-hmm.
success. And a lot of
Right.
people loved it so much that I'm actually now, I've opened and started an accessible travel company.
Wow.
Yes. So take that and take it worldwide. And not only local, but it extends to local events like music concerts. I just was speaking to someone today about doing a blind multisensory pottery class.
Mm,
where
yeah.
you're actually getting to be describe what to do and how to create your own pottery, getting your hands on that pottery wheel and creating three pieces of art that you get to go home with, and
Oh, wow.
working with some volunteers that know, that are sighted, volunteers that can help you sculpt this piece of clay and turn it into a beautiful work of art, right? And then get to
Oh.
paint it and do all these things. So I just talked to them about that earlier, right before our podcast, and I'm excited to
Mhm.
put that together. So I'll be doing things like that all around Houston, as well as booking BVI cruises and
Okay, well, let me know when you
events.
do the BVI cruises because I would love to get one started.
Yes.
We could do a blind table talk cruise and get
Yes.
that would
Oh
be
my goodness.
so
So much
fun.
fun because I know
'Cause
you love to travel. You're a
yes, I
beach
do.
traveler.
And we went on cruises and we did not have enough sighted people. And so that would be, I know a lot of my blind friends like to cruise, and
Hmm.
that would be a great little outing, an event for us to do.
Absolutely. Yeah,
So,
and I'm actually taking another group to Kima later
oh
this
yeah.
month. So that's a beautiful place here in Houston where there's boardwalk and roller coaster rides, as well as fine dining and all
So
and boat rides.
do you have the volunteer, like do you provide the sighted volunteers with you, or like do we have to bring our own
No, no, no. I
sighted
usually
people?
put, if you don't have an attendant
Hmm.
or a
If it's just by
um
ourselves.
if you're by yourself and you don't have your own attendant already that's coming with you, then I
Hmm.
can provide that easily. So
Yeah.
I just
Okay.
need to know usually when I sign people up, like
If you're by yourself or
if you're
not.
by yourself or not, if you
Yeah.
need sighted guide or not. Some people, depending on their level of vision, they may or may not need it. So
Right.
I think about all of those things because I've been and I'm so passionate about equalizing the playing field for everybody to enjoy vacations and love life and live life to the fullest with all members of your family, whether they're sighted or not, whether they have a disability or not, so that we can all go and enjoy these things. And so I think about all the accessibility needs that you could possibly think of. And if I haven't thought about it and you bring it to my attention, I'll be sure to make sure that there's the accommodations that are necessary.
So
So
how does that work as far as, so do you plan the different trips and you
you can come to me. Thank you for that
Mhm,
question. You
mhm,
can come to me and say, you know what, Chelsea, my whole family, we want to do this trip. And instead of going to Travelocity or Expedia or
mhm,
some random website, you come to me, you tell me what your needs are for your travel, how many family members or friends need the accessible accommodations and who don't. And then
mhm.
I go ahead and I can book your flights, your hotel, your car rentals, your travel, your cruises, your all the things that you possibly need. Maybe you want to do some maybe you want to go see some shows when you're
Yeah,
in that
right
part of
out
air, or you
there.
want to do certain experiences. I am able to book those things for you as well. So basically think of me as a travel agent
Hmm.
that is specializing in the needs and accessibility, in the needs for the blind and
Wow.
disabled community. So I am truly a travel agent.
And then we pay you a fee on
No,
top of
that's the beauty of it. You pay
what?
me absolutely nothing.
What?
You, I, the companies that
That you work for,
I work for,
that you're booking,
that I
right?
book for,
Mm-hmm.
actually they pay commissions to us as
Oh,
travel
what?
agents.
Oh my, okay.
Yes.
And
So,
then
yes.
is that only in Houston, or
No,
if,
it's everywhere, all over the
so,
world.
so my
So,
listeners that are all over can call
yes.
you to do that.
Correct. I could do it remotely if we can get on a Zoom call and you can tell me what your travel needs are, what your accommodation needs are.
What?
I can book it for you. So, yes, this is why I'm so excited
Oh,
about this.
I am excited about this.
I know, me
Okay.
too. Um,
Oh my God. I mean, my listeners are probably going to be excited about this.
yes,
That is awesome. I
yes,
am so
I
excited.
know. I just launched this month. My passion for travel and fun activities and events and making it fully inclusive for everyone is where this is coming from. I've loved doing
Yeah.
this for so long, and I truly believe that when when we do more, and the blind community and the disabled community go out there and show more of your presence out there, and you show them what you tell them what you need, then businesses and companies will see your buying power and they will make the accommodations for us.
Absolutely.
But you've
Yes.
got to go out there and got to show them that we want everything like everybody else. We want to travel. We want to do this. We want to do that. But you got to go out there, live your life to the fullest. And when we go out there as groups and showing our buying power and our strength in numbers, then that's when you
Yes.
can create change. That's when you get big companies to create more accessible
Yes.
accommodations for all the things
Right.
that we use every day, you know?
Right. Oh
So,
my gosh, that is
yeah.
so awesome. I mean, and it takes a lot because even though, we there's travel agents that help us and book flights and book
Mhm.
rooms and stuff, but you take it to the next level.
Oh, girl, you know me. I don't do
And
anything
yes,
half.
and it is just so, it's taking things that we don't necessarily even know or have the time and patience to deal with when it comes to
Right.
I mean, even though it's important for us, right? I
Of
mean,
course.
I
Of
don't want to
course.
end up paying for a show or a trip or something going somewhere and I can't do anything in there because
and
I
and
can't
go
see.
to the building
Yeah.
that the show is going to be at, and there's no
Yeah.
no elevators or no
Right.
ramps,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
for me, I will connect with all the
The
businesses, the
venues.
companies, and the venues, and do all that research in advance.
Yeah.
And then I will recommend the places that are going to be more accessible friendly versus those that
Yeah.
aren't.
Yeah.
And eventually, where I see this going is that I'll be, for my own channel, a accessible travel channel, I'll be going to these places and
Yeah. To
doing
test them out.
reviews and
Yeah.
test them out and kind of
Yeah.
share with you guys, hey guys, don't go
Hmm.
here, or yes, you should go here, and things like that. And kind
Absolutely.
of so that you can watch these things and like get a heads up on it in advance. And, you know,
Yeah.
and really get these companies, these giant conglomerate
Right.
chains and companies, to really see where our needs are so that
Yeah.
they will change and make those accommodations for us, you know?
Okay. So
Okay.
we have that. We also
Yes.
have your image
Uh,
consulting. Have that.
yes.
So
Yeah.
where do our listeners find you? How do they reach out to Miss Chelsea Nguyen?
You want to go to my website
Yeah.
is cnvisionimage.com. So I'm going to spell that out. C as in cat, N as in Nancy, and then vision, VISION, and then image, IM as in mom, AGE. See and Vision Image, and that's .com. So that's going to be my website. You can,
Awesome.
find
Contact you there.
information there. You can also find me on YouTube. So it's See and Vision Image, See and Vision Image channel. All right.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
I'm on YouTube. We're also on Facebook. And
Awesome. So
if
you're all over.
yeah, I'm trying
And
to get out there.
worst comes to worst, if you have problems, you can't do that, they can reach out to us here at Blind Table Talk and we will definitely get you connected as well. So
Wonderful. Yes.
awesome.
I am going to go ahead and give my phone number because it's already public information anyway.
Okay.
713-553-7041. Again, that's 713-553-7041. And you can reach me. It's best to text me because if you call, I probably, or you could leave a message, but
Yeah.
that'll be
Awesome.
great. So
Awesome.
thank
Well,
you so
thank
much again,
you.
Victoria, for having me on this show. I'm so excited.
Yes, I thank you so much. You have been awesome and I appreciate you. And as always, and I've said this before, our conversations just, we cover a lot of stuff, but I definitely
Mhm.
think it's, good information for our listeners and for everybody. So, do you have before we say our final
Yeah.
goodbyes, do you have any last words that you'd like to share? Any gems, or words of wisdom, anything that you would like to
Ooh.
share with our listeners?
I'm looking at my calendar in front of me right now, and I think this speaks for me more than anything else is that being ready for independence or change in your life, being ready for whatever that is your next thing that you want to tackle and change in your life is truly a decision. So please decide that you want better and more for yourself, whether that's to be more independent, more confident, or to get over your fear of being on camera. Okay.
Yes, exactly.
So
I hear you. I hear you.
ready is a decision. So go out there, be ready. And when you're ready, seek individuals like BPN, like Victoria, like me, and other professionals that are here and so excited and here to help you, however it is that you want to show up in the world.
Thank you.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
Listeners, you heard it here. Thank you all for tuning in. Until next time, y'all.
Blind Table Talk, yeah.